The living room was pitch black except for the digital clock on the cable box, 3:07 a.m. I sat in my threadbare recliner, the one Julia always nagged me to replace, listening to her key fumble in the lock. Rain drummed against the windows of our modest colonial in Portfield, Massachusetts, the kind of working-class neighborhood where everyone knew everyone else's business, whether you wanted them to or not. I'm Adam Kessler, 43 years old, union electrician for the past 22 years. Calloused hands, graying temples, the kind of guy people underestimate at first glance. Tonight, that was going to work in my favor. The front door creaked open. Julia's heels clicked against the hardwood floor, expensive heels I'd never seen before. She was trying to be quiet, but after 18 years of marriage, I knew every sound she made. "Where were you?" I asked calmly, not moving from the darkness. She jumped, dropping her purse. "Jesus, Adam, you scared me to death. Why are you sitting in the dark?" "I asked you a question, Julia." Even in the dim light from the hallway, I could see her composing herself, smoothing down her skirt, tucking a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. She was still beautiful at 41, still had that smile that could charm anyone except me, not anymore. "Working late," she said, bending to pick up her purse. "Lost track of time. You know how it gets at the logistics company, end of quarter reports, inventory reconciliation. Vince had us all staying late." Vince, her boss. Vince Morrell with his black Audi and his smug smile and his corner office overlooking downtown Portfield. I'd met him exactly 3 times at company parties. Each time he'd looked at me like I was something stuck to his shoe. "Working late," I repeated, reaching for my phone on the side table. "That's what I said." Her voice had that edge now, the one she used when she thought I was being unreasonable. "Some of us have demanding careers, Adam. Not everyone gets to clock out at 4:30 and come home to a beer." I pressed play on the voicemail I'd saved. Tasha's voice filled the dark room. Julia's best friend since college, her maid of honor, the woman who'd eaten at our dinner table every Sunday for the past 5 years. "Adam, it's Tasha. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep covering for her. You deserve to know the truth. Julia's not working late. She's with Vince. They've been having an affair for months, and I'm done lying for her. I'm sorry. You're a good man, and you don't deserve this." The message had been left at 1:17 a.m., while Julia was supposedly buried in spreadsheets. Julia collapsed to her knees on the hardwood floor. The sound echoed through the house like a gunshot. "Adam, please." 8 weeks, I said, my voice steady as a carpenter's level. "I've been monitoring your cloud backup for 8 weeks. Every text message, every photo, every deleted email gets synced to our shared account. Did you forget about that little feature we set up for convenience?" She was sobbing now, mascara running down her cheeks. "It was a mistake. One stupid mistake." I pressed play on another recording. This one was from her phone, backed up automatically just 6 hours ago. Her voice, breathless and excited. "He's working late tonight, some emergency call in Southbridge. We have until at least midnight. Book the usual room at the Hampton Inn. And Vince, wear that cologne I like." "One mistake?" I stood up, towering over her in the darkness. "The hotel receipts go back 3 months, Julia. Tasha sent me everything. Every lie you asked her to tell, every time you used her as your alibi." The separation papers were already filed. I'd done it yesterday morning, right after my shift, while she was at work planning her evening with Vince. The bank accounts were separated. I'd moved my direct deposit and taken my half of our savings. The lease on her BMW was transferred to my name only, then immediately canceled. Her car would be repossessed by Friday. My phone buzzed. A text from Tasha. "I sent him everything. Hotel receipts, deleted messages, location data, 3 months' worth. I can't be part of this anymore." Julia looked up at me, rain from her hair dripping onto the floor. "Adam, we can work through this. Marriage counseling, therapy, whatever you want." I played the final recording, her voice again from 2 weeks ago. "If Tasha ever grows a conscience and tells him, I'll destroy her. I know about her tax problems, her prescription pill issue. She'll keep quiet." The sound of a car door slamming outside made us both look toward the window. Headlights swept across the living room wall. "That'll be your father," I said. "I called him an hour ago. Played him Tasha's voicemail. He's driving down from Burlington. Should be here any minute." Julia's face went white. "You didn't?" "I did. And tomorrow morning, I'm calling your mother. Then your sister. Then everyone at your book club, your yoga class, and anyone else who needs to know what kind of person they've been associating with." The front door burst open without a knock. Frank Sweeney, Julia's father, filled the doorway. 68 years old, retired construction foreman, built like a brick wall and twice as hard. He took one look at his daughter on the floor and shook his head. "Is it true?" His voice was granite. Tell me it's not true, Julia. She couldn't meet his eyes. Daddy? Don't you daddy me? Is it true? I handed him my phone. Press play. He listened to Tasha's voicemail again, his face growing darker with each word. When it finished, he looked at Julia with disgust. I raised you better than this. It's complicated. No, it's not. Frank turned to me. Adam, I'm sorry. I'm ashamed of her. Whatever you need from me for the divorce, you have it. Julia scrambled to her feet. You can't all just turn on me like this. I made a mistake, but I'm still your daughter. My daughter wouldn't have done this, Frank said. My daughter wouldn't have lied and cheated and used her friends to cover it up. I don't know who you are anymore. He walked out without another word. The front door slammed behind him, and Julia collapsed back onto the floor. Check your credit cards, I said. I froze all the joint accounts this afternoon. And the lease on this house? It expires in 30 days. I'm not renewing it. She looked up at me with something between rage and desperation. You can't do this to me. I have nowhere to go. You should have thought of that before you decided to redecorate the Hampton Inn with your boss. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Tasha. I'm testifying in the divorce proceedings. She threatened to ruin me if I told you, but I can't live with this anymore. You deserve to know. I showed Julia the message. She read it and let out a sound somewhere between a sob and a scream. Everyone's going to know, she whispered. Everyone already knows, I said. Tasha called your mother 20 minutes ago. Your mom's calling your sister. By morning, this whole thing will be all over town. You know how Portfield works. She stood up slowly, swaying on her expensive heels. I need to call Vince. Good luck with that. I pulled up another text message, this one from an unknown number I'd tracked down through some friends in the Electrical Workers Union. His wife Darlene got an interesting package today. Hotel receipts, photos, text messages. Turns out she hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago. She already filed for divorce and froze their assets. Vince is staying at the Motel 6 on Route 9. Julia stared at me like I'd grown a second head. How did you? You think I'm just some dumb electrician who doesn't know how the world works. I've been planning this for 8 weeks, Julia. Every detail, every contingency. While you were playing house with your boss, I was building a case that would hold up in any court in Massachusetts. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I'm leaving. Take an umbrella, I called after her. It's raining, and your car's going to be repossessed on Friday. Might be a long walk to wherever you're going. The door slammed. Through the window, I watched her realize her BMW wasn't in the driveway. I'd had it towed to the dealer 3 hours ago. The lease was in my name, after all. She stood in the rain for a full minute before pulling out her phone. Probably calling Vince. Good luck getting him to answer. According to my source, Darlene had been calling him every 10 minutes since she got the evidence package, screaming loud enough that the neighbors called the cops. I poured myself a bourbon and sat back down in my recliner. Tomorrow, the real fun would begin. This was just the opening act. The phone started ringing at 6:30 a.m. First call was from my buddy Pete Russo, who tended bar at the Copper Tap downtown. Holy shit, Adam. Is it true? Tasha's been calling everyone in town. It's true. I was making coffee in the kitchen, watching the rain continue to fall on my empty driveway. Julia's been screwing her boss for 3 months. Jesus, I'm sorry, man. You need anything? Meet me at the tap tonight. I've got a story to tell you. The second call was from Julia's mother, Margaret Sweeney. Her voice was shaking. Adam, Frank told me what happened. I'm so sorry. I'm ashamed of what my daughter did to you. It's not your fault, Margaret. I raised her to be better than this, to have values, morals. I don't understand how she could... Her voice broke. What can I do? Just be honest with people when they ask. Don't cover for her. I won't. I can't. Frank and I are driving down this afternoon to get the rest of our things from her apartment. We don't want anything to do with this mess. The third call was from my foreman, Danny Martinez. Kessler, you okay? Words getting around about Julia. I'm fine, Danny. Better than fine, actually. Good. Take the day if you need it. Nah, I'll be in. Works exactly what I need right now. By the time I got to the job site in Westfield, installing new electrical panels and a strip mall renovation, the whole crew knew. These guys had met Julia at company picnics, Christmas parties. They'd liked her, or thought they did. She always seemed so nice, said Tommy Kowalski, pulling wire through conduit. Friendly, you know. Asked about the wife and kids. That's the thing about cheaters, I said, connecting grounds to the panel. They get real good at acting like decent people. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Back off, or you and your friends will regret it. I showed it to Tommy. Looks like Vince Morrell's trying to scare me. Vince Morrell from Portfield Logistics? That prick in the Audi? That's the one? Tommy cracked his knuckles. Want me and the boys to pay him a visit? Nah, I've got better plans for Mr. Morrell. At lunch, I drove to the fish market on Water Street and bought 20 pounds of fresh shrimp. Then I stopped by the hardware store and picked up some electrical supplies. Nothing fancy, just some basic components any electrician would have lying around. That evening, I met Pete at the Copper Tap. The place was packed for a Tuesday night, which told me word had spread fast. In a town like Portfield, population 23,000, a good scandal travels faster than a brush fire. Pete slid me a bourbon, neat. So, tell me everything. I laid it out for him. The cloud backup monitoring, Tasha's confession, the hotel receipts, the recordings. Pete's eyes got wider with each detail. You've been planning this for 2 months? 8 weeks, ever since I found the first hotel charge on our credit card statement. She claimed it was a work conference in Springfield, but the receipt showed a king bed for 2 nights, when her conference was only supposed to be 1 day. And you didn't confront her? Pete, I'm an electrician. I know that if you want to rewire a house properly, you don't just start ripping out cables, you study the system, you figure out how everything connects, then you make your changes all at once so the power doesn't come back on until you're ready. So what's next? I pulled out my phone and showed him Vince's threatening text. Next, I teach Mr. Morrell that threatening a union electrician isn't the smartest move he could make. What are you thinking? Remember that job we did at the marina last summer? The boat alarm systems? Pete grinned. Oh, this is going to be good. At 2 a.m., I drove to Vince's house in the upscale Riverside development. His black Audi was parked in the driveway. Apparently, he'd made it home from the Motel 6. The house was dark, and I could see Darlene's Honda in the garage. Looked like they were trying to work things out. That was about to get more complicated. I popped the hood of the Audi and got to work. First, I disconnected the car alarm's main siren and rewired it to the horn relay, then connected it to a timer circuit powered by the car's battery. Every 15 minutes, starting at 6 a.m., that horn was going to blast for 30 seconds. The only way to stop it would be to disconnect the battery, but I'd made sure that would require removing half the engine compartment. Then I opened all 4 doors and dumped the 20 pounds of shrimp into the air vents, under the seats, in the glove compartment, and in the trunk. By tomorrow afternoon, that car was going to smell like a fish market in August. I was back home by 3:30 a.m., just as my phone started buzzing with texts from Julia. Where are you? I need to talk to you. Vince broke up with me. His wife is making him choose. Please answer me. I have nowhere to go. I turned off the phone and went to bed. Tomorrow was going to be a busy day. The first horn blast went off at 6 a.m. sharp. I was already at work, but Tommy Kowalski lived 2 streets over from Vince's neighborhood. He called me at 6:17. Adam, you beautiful bastard. There's a black Audi in Riverside that's been honking every 15 minutes since dawn. Neighbors are losing their minds. Huh, that's weird. The best part is, some guy in a bathrobe keeps running out to the car, trying to make it stop. He looks like he's about to have a heart attack. By 8 a.m., I'd gotten 3 more calls from friends and coworkers who'd heard about the mysterious honking Audi. Apparently, Vince had tried everything, disconnecting the obvious wires, pulling fuses, even calling a tow truck. But my little timer circuit was buried deep in the electrical system, and the shrimp smell was already starting to permeate the neighborhood. At 9:15, my phone rang. Unknown number. Kessler, this is Vince Morrell. What did you do to my car? I'm sorry, who is this? Don't play dumb with me. I know it was you. Mr. Morrell, I'm at work. Been here since 7. Ask my foreman if you want. That car is going to cost me $5,000 to repair. Maybe you should have thought about that before you sent me threatening text messages. By the way, I forwarded that text to the police. Harassment is a crime in Massachusetts. He hung up. 5 minutes later, Danny Martinez walked over to where I was installing outlet boxes. Adam, some guy just called looking for you. Vince something, said you vandalized his car. Never heard of him, I said, drilling holes in the wall. Must have me confused with someone else. At lunch, I drove to Julia's office at Portfield Logistics. The building was a converted warehouse on Industrial Drive, the kind of place that tried to look modern but still smelled like motor oil and old concrete. I walked into the lobby like I owned the place. I'm here to see my wife, I told the receptionist, a young girl who looked nervous. Mr. Kessler? Julia asked me to tell you she's not available. That's okay, I'll wait. I sat down in the lobby and pulled out my phone, making sure the volume was turned up loud. Then I started playing the audio recordings I'd saved, Julia's voice planning her affair, making arrangements, lying to me about working late. The receptionist's eyes got wider with each clip. Sir, maybe you should... Oh, don't mind me, just catching up on some family business. After 10 minutes of this, Julia came rushing out of the elevator, her face red with embarrassment. Adam, what are you doing here? Just wanted to see where you work so hard, I said loudly enough for everyone in the lobby to hear. Hope you had a productive night last night, honey. You got home so late from all that inventory reconciliation. We need to talk privately. Why? We're married. No secrets between us, right? The elevator dinged, and Vince Morrell stepped out. He looked like hell. Unshaven, wrinkled shirt, bags under his eyes. The shrimp smell hit me before he was halfway across the lobby. Jesus, Vince, Julia said. What's that smell? Someone put fish in my car, he said, glaring at me. 20 pounds of shrimp. The whole thing's ruined. That's terrible, I said with mock sympathy. Who would do such a thing? You know damn well. I know that threatening text messages are a crime, I said, standing up. I know that adultery might not be illegal, but it sure doesn't look good in divorce court. And I know that your wife, Darlene, got a very interesting package yesterday. Vince's face went white. What package? I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo, Darlene throwing his clothes out their front door while screaming at him. One of the neighbors had posted it on Facebook with the caption, Riverside Drama. Anyone know what this is about? She kicked you out, didn't she? I said. That's why you smell like a fish market and look like you slept in your car. Oh, wait, you can't sleep in your car. It's full of shrimp. The lobby was dead silent. The receptionist was staring. 2 other employees had come down to see what the commotion was about. Julia looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. This isn't over, Vince said. You're right, I replied. It's not. I walked out, leaving them standing there in the lobby, reeking of shrimp and shame. That evening, Pete called me with an update. Darlene Morrell came into the bar around 4 o'clock. She was drunk and pissed off, telling everyone who'd listen about her cheating husband and his affair with some logistics company slut. She used those exact words? Her words were a lot more colorful. She also mentioned that she's taking him for everything he's worth. House, cars, his half of the business. Apparently, she's been planning this for weeks. Smart woman? Gets better. Julia showed up around 6, looking for a place to drink away her sorrows. Darlene was still here. Oh, shit. Oh, shit is right. Darlene took one look at her and started screaming. Called her every name in the book. Had to have Mike and Tony escort them both out before it turned into a brawl. I was starting to feel like maybe I'd set enough fires for one day. But then my phone buzzed with another text from Vince. You think you're so smart. Watch your back. That was a mistake. I forwarded Vince's second threatening text to Detective Ray Sullivan at the Portfield Police Department. Ray and I went to high school together, played baseball on the same team. He called me back within an hour. Adam, this guy's been making threats? 2 texts so far. I've got screenshots with timestamps. Want to file a complaint? Not yet, but I want it on record in case things escalate. Smart thinking. By the way, we got a vandalism report today. Black Audi, someone put fish in it. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Ray, I've been working steady since this whole thing started. Check with my foreman. Already did. You're clean. But between you and me, whoever did it has a sense of humor. 20 pounds of shrimp? That's creative. That weekend was the annual Portfield Community Center fundraiser, a big outdoor event with food trucks, local bands, and half the town showing up to drink beer and gossip. I'd been planning to skip it, but Pete convinced me to go. Don't hide from these people, he said. You've got nothing to be ashamed of. He was right. I showed up Saturday afternoon wearing my best jeans and a clean work shirt, ready to face whatever whispers and stares came my way. What I didn't expect was the reception I got. Adam! Mrs. Patterson from down the street waved me over to her booth. I heard what happened. That woman doesn't deserve you. Thanks, Mrs. Patterson. My Harold cheated on me back in '82. I know how it feels. But you're handling it better than I did. I threw all his clothes in the front yard and set them on fire. That's one approach. Not as creative as putting shrimp in someone's car, though. Word traveled fast in small towns. I was getting a beer from one of the volunteer booths when I spotted Julia across the crowd. She was working the dunking booth, probably volunteering to try to rebuild her reputation. She looked tired, older somehow. The expensive clothes and perfect makeup couldn't hide the fact that her world was falling apart. Then I saw Vince approaching the beer booth. He'd cleaned up since our encounter at his office. Fresh shirt, shaved face, but he still looked like a man on the edge. He ordered a beer and turned around, scanning the crowd until his eyes landed on me. Kessler. Morrell. We stood there for a moment, sizing each other up. He was taller than me, probably worked out at one of those fancy gyms. but I'd been swinging hammers and pulling cable for 22 years. My hands were scarred from electrical burns and cuts, my shoulders broad from real work, not gym equipment. "You think you're pretty clever," he said. "I think I'm a guy whose wife was screwing her boss, and now everyone knows about it." "You ruined my marriage." "No, you ruined your marriage when you decided to have an affair with mine." He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me. "This isn't over." "You keep saying that. What exactly are you planning to do about it?" Before he could answer, a voice cut through the tension. "Vince Morrell, you son of a bitch!" We both turned to see Darlene Morrell pushing through the crowd, her face red with rage. She was carrying a cardboard box, and she looked like she was ready to commit murder. "Darlene, what am I doing here?" She dumped the contents of the box at his feet. Clothes, toiletries, a framed photo of them on their wedding day. "I'm returning your shit. All of it." The crowd was starting to gather, sensing drama. Julia had abandoned the dunking booth and was watching from across the way, her face pale. "We can work this out," Vince said, trying to keep his voice low. "Work it out. You've been screwing that blonde bimbo for months, in our bed, in our house." "Darlene, please." "Please what? Please forgive you? Please pretend it didn't happen? Please let you keep humiliating me while you play house with your secretary?" "She's not my secretary. I don't care what she is. She can have you. Both of you deserve each other." Darlene turned to address the growing crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet Vince Morrell, cheating husband and all-around piece of garbage. And over there," she pointed at Julia, "is Julia Kessler, the home-wrecking slut who helped destroy my marriage." The crowd murmured and shifted, some people pulling out phones to record the spectacle. Julia looked like she wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. "Darlene," I said, stepping forward. "I'm Adam Kessler. I'm sorry this happened to you." She looked at me with sympathy. "You're her husband? Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. We're both victims here." "Not victims," I said. "Survivors." She smiled grimly. "You're right. Survivors." She turned back to Vince. "By the way, the divorce papers will be served Monday morning. I'm taking the house, the cars, and half your business. My lawyer says adultery still matters in Massachusetts." Vince bent down to gather his scattered belongings, his face burning with embarrassment. As he picked up the wedding photo, Darlene stepped on it, grinding the glass under her heel. "Oops," she said. The crowd applauded. Someone whistled. Vince straightened up, his arms full of wrinkled clothes and broken memories. "This is all your fault," he said to me. "No," I replied. "This is all your fault. I just made sure everyone found out about it." He stormed off toward the parking lot, leaving a trail of socks and underwear behind him. The crowd began to disperse, buzzing with excitement over the best entertainment the fundraiser had seen in years. Julia approached hesitantly, her eyes red-rimmed. "Adam, can we talk?" "We're talking." "Privately?" "No, I'm done with private conversations with you. If you have something to say it here." She looked around at the remaining crowd, some of whom were still watching us with obvious interest. "I made a mistake," she said. "A terrible mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through it." "Julia, stop. I love you. I've always loved you. This thing with Vince, it was just what? A 3-month mistake? A mistake you planned and lied about and used your best friend to cover up?" I was confused. I pulled out my phone and played the recording I'd saved for this moment. Her voice, clear and unmistakable. "Adam's so predictable. Work, beer, TV, bed, same routine every day. He'll never suspect anything as long as I keep the lies simple." The remaining crowd heard every word. Julia's face crumpled. How did you? Cloud backup, remember? Every phone call you made got saved automatically, including the ones where you complained about what a boring husband I was. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. "I didn't mean it. You were just what? Trying to impress your boyfriend by trashing your husband? Making yourself feel better about cheating by convincing yourself I deserved it?" "Adam, please." "No, Julia, we're done. The papers are filed, the accounts are separated, and by next week everyone in this town will know exactly what kind of person you are." She looked around desperately, as if searching for someone to defend her. But Tasha wasn't there. She'd made it clear she was done covering for Julia's lies. Her parents weren't there. They'd already chosen sides. Her other friends were keeping their distance, not wanting to get caught up in the drama. "I have nowhere to go," she whispered. "You should have thought of that before you decided to redecorate hotel rooms with your boss." I walked away, leaving her standing alone in the middle of the fundraiser, surrounded by the wreckage of her reputation. Behind me, I could hear people murmuring, phones buzzing with text messages, the gossip mill grinding into high gear. Pete caught up with me at the parking lot. Jesus, Adam, that was brutal. That was justice. What's next? I looked back toward the fundraiser where Julia was still standing alone, and Vince was probably sitting in his shrimp-scented car trying to figure out how his life had fallen apart so quickly. Next comes the finale. Monday morning brought the first real autumn storm of the season. Rain lashed against the windows of the electrical supply warehouse where I was picking up materials for a big commercial job. My phone had been buzzing all weekend with updates from friends and neighbors about the fallout from the fundraiser. Tasha had called Sunday night crying, "Adam, I'm so sorry. I should have told you months ago." "You told me when it mattered," I'd said. "That's what counts." Julia's been calling me nonstop. She wants me to lie for her again, tell people the affair wasn't serious, that it's over now. What did you tell her? I told her I'm done lying. I told her I'm testifying in your divorce, and if she contacts me again, I'm getting a restraining order. Now, loading PVC conduit into my truck, I got a text from Pete. Vince showed up at the bar last night. Drunk, angry, talking about getting even. Thought you should know. I wasn't surprised. Cornered animals always lashed out before they died. The storm got worse as the day went on. By quitting time, the wind was howling and the rain was coming down sideways. I drove home through flooded streets, past downed tree branches and flickering streetlights. The weather matched my mood, dark, violent, cleansing. I pulled into my driveway and saw that someone had been there. The front door was standing open, rain blowing into the hallway. My blood ran cold. I grabbed the tire iron from my truck and approached carefully. The living room was trashed, furniture overturned, pictures smashed, papers scattered everywhere. Someone had taken their rage out on my house. "Hello?" I called out. "Anyone still here?" No answer. I moved through the house room by room, checking for damage, looking for clues. In the kitchen, I found a note scrawled on a piece of paper and weighted down with a coffee mug. "You think you won? This is just the beginning. You ruined my life, now I'm going to ruin yours." No signature, but I recognized the handwriting from the few times Vince had signed paperwork at company events. He'd broken into my house and trashed it, then left a written confession. The man was either desperate or stupid, probably both. I called Ray Sullivan at the police station. "Ray, someone broke into my house, trashed the place, and left a threatening note." "I'll be right over. Don't touch anything." While I waited for Ray, I walked through the house, taking photos with my phone. The damage wasn't as bad as it looked at first glance. Mostly papers thrown around, cushions tossed, a few picture frames broken. More like a tantrum than real destruction. Ray arrived 20 minutes later with Officer Martinez. No relation to my foreman Danny. They documented everything, dusted for fingerprints, bagged the threatening note. "Any idea who might have done this?" Ray asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. "I've got a pretty good guess. Same person who's been sending me threatening texts." "Vince Morrell?" "That's the one." Ray nodded. "We'll pay him a visit. In the meantime, you might want to stay somewhere else tonight, just in case he decides to come back." "I'm not running from this guy." "Adam, I'm not suggesting you run. I'm suggesting you be smart. Let us handle it legally." But as Ray and Officer Martinez drove away into the storm, I was already making other plans. I'd been patient, methodical, strategic. I'd let Vince and Julia destroy themselves through their own poor choices and public humiliation. But breaking into my house crossed a line. It was time to end this. I spent the evening cleaning up the mess and waiting. Around 11 p.m., Pete called. "Adam, Vince is back at the bar. Drunker than last night, shooting his mouth off about how he's going to make you pay. Talking about burning down your house, keying your truck, all kinds of crazy shit." "How drunk is he?" "Falling off the bar stool drunk. I'm about to cut him off and call him a cab." "Don't call him a cab. Let him walk home. But call me when he leaves." "Adam, what are you planning?" "Justice." Pete called back at 12:47 a.m. He just left, stumbling toward downtown, probably heading back to that motel. I knew a shortcut. The Motel 6 on Route 9 was a dump even on good days. In the middle of a thunderstorm, with half the parking lot flooded and the neon sign flickering, it looked like the end of the world. I parked across the street and waited. Vince showed up 15 minutes later, soaked to the skin and weaving like a sailor on shore leave. He fumbled with his room key, dropped it twice, finally managed to get inside. Room 127, ground floor, perfect. I gave him 20 minutes to pass out, then made my move. The lock on his motel room door was cheap, the kind that could be opened with a credit card if you knew what you were doing. 22 years of electrical work had taught me a lot about getting into places I wasn't supposed to be. Vince was sprawled on the bed, fully clothed, snoring like a freight train. The room reeked of alcohol and that lingering shrimp smell from his car. I stood over him for a moment, thinking about everything he'd cost me, my marriage, my trust, my peace of mind, the violation of my home. Then I got to work. I used the extension cords from my truck to tie him to the bed, not tight enough to hurt him, but secure enough that he wouldn't be going anywhere when he woke up. Then I propped a chair by the door and waited for him to sober up. He came around about an hour later, groggy and confused. "What the? Where am I? Who?" He tried to sit up and realized he was restrained. "What the hell is going on?" "Good morning, Vince. Sleep well?" He focused on me with difficulty. "Kessler, what are you doing here? Untie me right now." "I don't think so. See, you broke into my house tonight, trashed the place, left me a threatening note. The police have your fingerprints and handwriting samples. You're looking at breaking and entering, criminal mischief, harassment." "You can't prove anything." I held up my phone, showing him photos of the damage and the note. "Actually, I can prove everything, but that's not why I'm here." "Then why?" "I'm here because you threatened to burn down my house, because you've been stalking me, harassing me, trying to intimidate me, because you thought you could ruin my life and walk away clean." Vince struggled against the extension cords. "This is kidnapping. You can't..." "I can't what? I can't hold you accountable for your actions. I can't make sure you face consequences for destroying 2 marriages and threatening innocent people." "I never threatened..." I played back his text messages on my phone. "Back off, or you and your friends will regret it. You think you're so smart. Watch your back. This is just the beginning. You ruined my life. Now I'm going to ruin yours." I looked at him calmly. "Should I keep going?" He stopped struggling. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand something, Vince. I'm not some dumb blue-collar guy you can push around. I'm not going to be intimidated by your threats or your tantrums. And I'm sure as hell not going to let you destroy what's left of my life." Okay. I get it. I'll leave you alone." "No, you don't get it yet, but you will." I pulled out my phone and started making calls. First call was to Pete. "Pete, it's Adam. Remember that favor you owe me? I need you to make some calls. Tell everyone that Vince Morrell is tied up in room 127 at the Motel 6. Tell them he's got something to say about his affair with Julia Kessler." "Adam, what are you..." "Just make the calls, Pete. Trust me." Second call was to Tasha. "Tasha, it's Adam. I need you to call everyone in Julia's book club, her yoga class, everyone from her office. Tell them to come to the Motel 6 on Route 9, room 127. Tell them Vince Morrell wants to make a public apology." "Adam, it's almost 3 in the morning." "Tell them it's important. Tell them it's their chance to hear the truth." Third call was to Margaret Sweeney, Julia's mother. "Margaret, I'm sorry to wake you. It's Adam. I need you to call your daughter and tell her to come to the Motel 6 on Route 9 right now. Tell her Vince is ready to confess everything." By 3:30 a.m., cars were pulling into the motel parking lot. Pete arrived first, followed by Tasha, then a steady stream of neighbors, co-workers, friends, and family members. Word had spread through Portfield like wildfire. Vince Morrell was ready to tell the truth about his affair. I opened the motel room door and stepped outside. The storm was still raging, but about 30 people had gathered in the parking lot, huddled under umbrellas and raincoats, waiting to see what would happen. "Ladies and gentlemen," I called out over the wind and rain, "I'd like you to meet Vince Morrell. He has something he'd like to tell you about his relationship with my wife." Vince was still tied to the bed, but he could see the crowd through the open door. His face went white. "Kessler, you can't do this. This is justice," I said. "This is what happens when you threaten people, break into their homes, and try to intimidate them into silence." Julia's car pulled into the parking lot, and she got out, looking confused and frightened. She pushed through the crowd to the motel room door. "Vince? What's going on? Why are all these people here?" "Tell her, Vince," I said. "Tell her about the plan you two had. Tell her about how you were going to set me up for domestic abuse so you could take my house and get custody of any kids we might have had. That's not... We never... Tell her about how you researched divorce law, figured out how to make me look like the bad guy. Tell her about the recording equipment you planted in my house." I held up a small digital recorder I'd found hidden behind the living room bookshelf. "This was broadcasting everything I said to a receiver in your car. You were building a case against me, weren't you?" The crowd murmured, shocked. Julia stared at Vince with growing horror. "Is that true? Were you recording Adam?" Vince couldn't meet her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "Like what? What were you planning?" "We were going to. We thought if we could prove Adam was abusive, controlling, you could get the house in the divorce. We could be together without starting over from nothing." Julia stepped back like she'd been slapped. You wanted me to lie about Adam being abusive? You said he was controlling. You said he didn't appreciate you. I was venting. I was feeling guilty about the affair. I never said he was abusive. The crowd was getting restless, angry. Someone shouted, What kind of man tries to frame an innocent person? Someone else yelled, Coward! Margaret Sweeney pushed to the front of the crowd. Julia, is this true? Were you planning to lie about Adam in court? No, Mom, I swear I never agreed to anything like that. But you knew about it, I said. You knew he was recording me. You knew he was building a false case against me. Julia's silence was answer enough. Frank Sweeney stepped forward, his face dark with rage. Julia, you were going to destroy an innocent man's reputation to cover up your own sins? Daddy, it wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, Vince said from the bed, his voice bitter. She knew about everything. The recordings, the plan, all of it. She was as much a part of it as I was. The crowd erupted, voices raised in anger, people shouting questions, demanding answers. Julia tried to explain, to defend herself, but her words were lost in the storm of outrage. Ray Sullivan's police cruiser pulled into the parking lot, lights flashing. He got out and surveyed the scene. 30 angry people, a woman crying in the rain, and a man tied to a bed in a motel room. What the hell is going on here? I walked over to him, holding up the digital recorder. Ray, I found this hidden in my house. It's been broadcasting everything I said to a receiver in Vince Morrell's car. He's been building a false case against me, planning to frame me for domestic abuse. Ray took the device, examining it. This is illegal surveillance equipment. That's not all, I said, showing him my phone. I've got text messages where he and Julia discussed their plan. They were going to destroy my reputation to get my house in the divorce. Ray looked at Vince, still tied to the bed. Mr. Morrell, you're under arrest for illegal surveillance, breaking and entering, and conspiracy to commit fraud. As Ray read Vince his rights and untied him, the crowd began to disperse, but not before everyone had gotten a good look at the man who'd tried to frame an innocent person and the woman who'd helped him plan it. Julia stood alone in the rain, abandoned by her family, her friends, her lover. She looked at me with something between hatred and desperation. You've destroyed everything, she said. No, I replied. You destroyed everything. I just made sure everyone knew about it. The police car drove away with Vince in the back seat. The crowd scattered to their cars, buzzing with excitement over the night's revelations. Julia got in her car and drove off into the storm, probably heading to another motel, another temporary refuge from the consequences of her choices. I stood in the parking lot for a moment, rain washing over me, feeling the weight of 8 weeks of planning and anger finally lifting from my shoulders. It was over. The truth was out, the guilty were exposed, and justice had been served. Pete walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. Hell of a thing, Adam. Hell of a thing. Yeah, I said, watching the last of the cars disappear into the storm. It was. The next morning, Vince Morrell was arraigned on multiple charges. Julia filed for divorce, but by then it didn't matter. I'd already filed first, and Massachusetts law was on my side. The illegal surveillance equipment, the conspiracy to commit fraud, the affair itself, all of it worked in my favor. Within 60 days, the divorce was finalized. I kept the house, the truck, and most of our assets. Julia moved to another state, trying to escape the scandal that had consumed her life in Portfield. Vince lost his business, his house, and his freedom. He got 18 months in county jail for the surveillance and fraud charges. Tasha and I started dating 6 months later. She'd proven her loyalty when it mattered, and we'd bonded over our shared experience of being betrayed by people we trusted. We understood each other in a way that only survivors could. On our first anniversary, she moved into the house on Maple Street. We were sitting on the front porch one evening, watching the sunset, when she asked me if I ever regretted how things had ended. Do you mean, do I regret exposing the truth? I said. Do I regret making sure Julia and Vince faced consequences for their actions? I mean, do you regret the way you did it? The public humiliation, the motel room scene, all of it. I thought about it for a long moment. You know what I regret? I regret trusting people who didn't deserve it. I regret 18 years of marriage to a woman who was capable of planning to destroy an innocent man's life. I regret not seeing through Vince Morrell's fake smile and expensive suits. But the revenge? That wasn't revenge, Tasha. That was justice. And sometimes justice requires a public reckoning. She squeezed my hand. I love you, Adam Kessler. I love you too. As the sun set over Portfield, Massachusetts, I reflected on everything that had happened. The affair, the lies, the threats, the surveillance, the conspiracy, The 8 weeks of careful planning, the public confrontations, the final stormy night at the Motel 6. Julia and Vince had thought they were smarter than everyone else. They'd thought they could manipulate the system, destroy an innocent man, and walk away clean. They'd underestimated the power of truth, the importance of loyalty, and the determination of a man who refused to be broken. They'd also underestimated the fact that in a small town like Portfield, justice sometimes comes with an audience.